Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at something that honestly sounds ripped straight from science fiction. For you, our listener, here's the journey we'll embark on today. We'll unravel how this specific NASA AI satellite, codenamed Sentinel AI, actually functions. We'll peel back the layers of its technological capabilities to understand how it achieved this, well, almost impossible feat of prediction. Then we'll dive into the urgent environmental crisis, particularly the escalating wildfire situation that not only inspired but frankly demanded the development and deployment of such groundbreaking technology in the first place. I mean, the need here is just desperate, isn't it?
Absolutely. And most crucially, we're going to engage with the profound, perhaps even unsettling ethical questions that this kind of predictive power raises. Because it's not just about the incredible science, right? It's about the societal implications. Implications of having an autonomous guardian watching over our planet and potentially, well, its inhabitants.
And this brings us to a central dilemma, something for you to consider as we go through this deep dive. Is this technology our best hope for mitigating future disasters? A true guardian against catastrophe, ushering in an era of unprecedented safety? Or, on the flip side, could it be the first unsettling step toward total environmental surveillance? And perhaps even more concerning, what some are already calling predictive environmental policing. It's a delicate balance, potentially perilous, and we're going to explore both sides with the nuance they demand. Let's jump right into the core mystery that first captured everyone's attention, the event that made headlines in a way that paradoxically celebrated something that didn't happen. The report stated that a NASA AI satellite identified and, by extension, stopped a massive wildfire in the western United States before it even started. This wasn't just a near miss where firefighters arrived just in time. No, this was an active, deliberate prevention of a disaster that, from a human perspective, hadn't even registered on the horizon, like a ghost fire caught before it could ever take form.
It's truly an unprecedented event, yeah. A testament to what happens when cutting-edge AI meets critical environmental challenges. The technological components involved in this feat are incredibly sophisticated, forming this layered system of detection and analysis. At its heart, the AI utilized an advanced combination of machine learning algorithms. Think of machine learning as a process where the system learns from vast amounts of data, identifying intricate patterns and relationships that are pretty much imperceptible to human analysis. In this case, it allowed the AI to sift through astronomical data sets of past wildfires, climate patterns, topographical information, vegetation types, all to build an incredibly complex understanding of ignition risk.
So it's like teaching a machine to recognize the exact recipe for a wildfire, but across millions of data points, and then having it scan the world for those ingredients coming together in real time.
Precisely. That's a great way to put it. And this learning capability was coupled with highly sophisticated climate modeling software. This isn't just about predicting tomorrow's weather, It's integrating massive amounts of real-time environmental data, things like atmospheric pressure, humidity, soil moisture, wind shear, and using that to project future conditions with remarkable accuracy. It can run thousands of simulations based on current data, predicting how different environmental variables might interact and evolve over hours or even days. And crucially, Sentinel AI employed advanced infrared sensors.
Ah, infrared, not just for seeing fires that are already burning, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
These aren't just for detecting active fires by their heat. They are so sensitive they can detect minute temperature variations and subtle heat signatures in the environment, even those that precede any visible smoke or flame, like heat stress in vegetation or residual warmth from a previous human activity that could reignite.
Wow. So it's not just looking for existing smoke or visible heat. It's looking for the conditions and the precursors, the things that will create smoke and heat before they actually exist. That feels like a fundamental shift, almost counterintuitive.
You've articulated the core difference perfectly. It is a profound paradigm shift. The alerts weren't sent when a fire was already burning, requiring an emergency response to contain an escalating crisis. No, instead, they were sent to ground crews hours before the first spark. This illustrates a fundamental shift from reactive firefighting, where you're always, playing catch-up, to an already unfolding disaster, to truly preemptive prevention. Instead of mobilizing resources to contain a blaze, you're deploying them to neutralize a threat that is still entirely theoretical to human perception, but statistically almost certain to ignite. It's like disarming a bomb before the timer even starts ticking.
Or heading off a disease before the first symptom appears. That disarming a bomb analogy really brings it home. So, what you're describing sounds like an ecological early warning system on an unprecedented scale,
Well,
capable of seeing threats before they even materialize. This isn't just a minor improvement on existing systems, is it?
no, definitely not. It's a revolutionary leap.
And the source material specifically pinpoints the location of this incident, which adds a really important layer of context for many of us, especially here in the US.
Yes, it does. The incident occurred deep in the mountains of Northern California. And this detail is crucial because, sadly, the region has become tragically synonymous with recurring and devastating wildfires. Over the past decade, California has faced some of the most destructive and deadly fires in its history, impacting communities, ecosystems, the state's economy, you name it. This specific geographical context immediately highlights the immense practical value and urgent necessity for such a preemptive system in an area so vulnerable. The stakes there are incredibly high, and the need for new solutions is just palpable.
That context brings us to the absolutely essential question of why such advanced technology isn't just innovative, but truly considered a necessity. Wildfires, as we know, have always been a natural part of many ecosystems, right? A force that clears brush, allows new growth, but the source emphasizes a dramatic, frankly terrifying change over the past decade, something that's transforming these natural events into overwhelming disasters.
And it's a change that, yeah, cannot be overstated. Wildfires, particularly across the American West, have become larger, faster, and more unpredictable than ever before. We're not talking about minor blazes that can be contained within a few days anymore. We're talking about infernos of unprecedented scale and speed, often creating their own weather systems, capable of jumping fire lines, and just overwhelming traditional firefighting methods. The impact has been devastating. I mean, entire towns reduced to ash within hours. Can you even imagine that?
It's horrifying.
A thriving community one moment, homes filled with memories, and then just gone, obliterated, leaving behind only foundations and charred landscapes.
And the numbers that underscore this crisis are truly stark, aren't they? We're talking about billions in damages every single year, not just property, but infrastructure, agriculture, natural resources. We're talking about thousands displaced, losing everything, forced to rebuild their lives from scratch, if they even can. And a wildfire season that now essentially lasts all year, extending far beyond those traditional summer and fall boundaries. It's no longer just a seasonal concern, it's a perpetual threat. It challenges emergency services year-round, strains resources, leads to chronic fatigue among responders. Areas that were once considered low risk are now routinely experiencing intense fire activity. It's a continuous rolling disaster.
Which begs that crucial question, doesn't it? Why? Why have wildfires, which have always been around, become such an overwhelming and continuous crisis now? What factors have truly escalated this beyond historical norms? The source paints a pretty vivid picture of a perfect storm of contributing factors, a dangerous confluence of environmental conditions that have turned vast areas of the U.S. into the perfect fuel for unstoppable infernos.
So it's not just one single thing. It's a combination of interconnected elements feeding into each other, creating this critical, almost apocalyptic situation. What are these critical factors? What makes up this perfect storm?
Well, the primary driver, pretty much unequivocally, is climate change. We're seeing its effects manifesting as more extreme weather patterns across the country. This includes prolonged heat waves that just bake the landscape, creating extraordinarily dry conditions, and increasingly intense, unpredictable wind events that can rapidly spread flames. Closely linked to this is persistent and severe drought, which has led to incredibly parched vegetation and soil across huge regions. When the landscape is starved of moisture for extended periods, every tree, every bush, every blade of grass becomes incredibly susceptible to ignition. It basically turns entire forests into giant kindling piles.
And then there's a factor I hadn't always thought of as a primary driver for these huge fires, but the source highlights its significant role: invasive plants.
Absolutely. Invasive species, like certain fast-growing non-native grasses or shrubs, are particularly problematic. These plants can rapidly colonize disturbed areas, outcompeting native vegetation, which is often more fire-resistant. Many of these invasive species are highly flammable. They dry out quickly and burn with extreme intensity, acting as a direct conduit for fire. They can effectively create continuous fuel ladders, allowing ground fires to quickly climb into tree canopies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is incredibly dangerous and makes fires much harder to control. They literally add more fuel to the fire. often in ways that traditional ecosystems weren't designed to handle, significantly exacerbating fire behavior and spread.
So, when you combine the intensifying effects of climate change, more extreme heat, persistent drought, with the spread of these new super flammable invasive fuels, you get this tinderbox effect across the U.S. It really makes the urgent need for a new paradigm in fire prevention abundantly clear. It's not just about getting better at putting fires out anymore, is it? It's about rethinking the entire approach.
Precisely. The severe and escalating wildfire crisis directly connects to the urgent need for truly innovative solutions like Sentinel AI. The current methods, heroic and dedicated as the firefighters are clearly struggling to cope. They're struggling with the sheer scale, speed, and ferocity of modern wildfires. The traditional approach, while brave, is simply overwhelmed. This highlights the truly immense potential value of a genuinely preemptive system, a system that doesn't just react to an already burning threat, but prevents it from ever taking hold in the first place. We needed something that could look beyond the horizon, anticipating disaster, not just containing it.
Which brings us neatly to the technological marvel at the heart of our story, maybe the protagonist of this new era, Sentinel AI. The source describes it by its codename, emphasizing that it is unlike anything before it in NASA's arsenal. This isn't just an incremental improvement, it sounds like a fundamental leap forward in how we observe and understand our planet.
It truly is. And its sophistication lies deep in its technological payload. It's got this suite of cutting-edge instruments that give it an unparalleled, almost sentient view of our planet. For instance, it features hyperspectral imaging.
Hyperspectral.
Yeah. So most satellites capture images in visible light, like our eyes, or maybe a few broad infrared bands. Hyperspectral imaging, though, allows Sentinel AI to capture detailed images across a vast spectrum of light. We're talking hundreds, maybe even thousands of narrow, contiguous bands, far beyond what human eyes can perceive. Think of it not just as a camera, but as like an analytical laboratory in orbit.
So it's not just seeing a forest as green, it's breaking down that green into a whole kaleidoscope of subtle variations.
It's exactly. That capability reveals the unique spectral fingerprint of everything on the ground. From specific plant species to varying levels of chlorophyll or water content within those plants. This means Sentinel AI can differentiate with incredible precision between healthy, well-hydrated foliage and stressed, desiccated vegetation that's primed to burn. It can even identify specific chemical compositions that indicate increased flammability, subtle cues that are critical precursors to fire.
Wow.
Entirely invisible to the naked eye or even standard multispectral satellites. It's literally seeing the underlying chemistry of the landscape.
And that's combined with incredibly sensitive infrared heat sensors, which I imagine are far more advanced than anything we've seen before.
They are. Again, these aren't just for detecting active fires by their radiant heat. They're capable of detecting minute temperature variations, down to fractions of a degree and incredibly subtle heat signatures. This means they can spot things like residual heat from a previously extinguished campfire that might still be smoldering underground, or even the slight warming of ground conditions that precedes ignition in incredibly dry fuel. This is about seeing the thermal footprint of a potential ignition point long before any smoke column or flame appears.
And all of this granular multispectral thermal data is then fed into sophisticated climate modeling software. That's the next step.
Precisely. That software is the brain that integrates all of that vast, real-time environmental data, from the hyperspectral imaging, the infrared sensors, historical climate records, current weather patterns, topographical data, even human activity patterns. It integrates all that to predict future conditions. It's not just observing, it's simulating and projecting. The source puts it beautifully. The satellite doesn't just watch the Earth, it thinks about it. This isn't merely about observational capabilities. It deeply underscores its analytical, interpretive, and crucially, its predictive power. It's a truly cognitive entity observing our world, processing information at a scale and speed that is just impossible for human teams.
So what does this all mean for us? It's far more than just a camera in orbit. It's literally a super intelligent brain analyzing our planet, processing information at a scale and speed impossible for humans to match, let alone surpass.
And that leads us to perhaps the most unique operational aspect of Sentinel AI, and maybe the most thought-provoking. This isn't a human-controlled satellite, it's an autonomous guardian. This detail is critical because it means Sentinel AI is making decisions, or at least highly refined interpretations and threat assessments, independently. Without constant human oversight or intervention for every single step, it's operating on its own computational power, identifying patterns and generating alerts without direct human prompting.
That's a huge leap, the autonomous aspect. How does it learn to do this so effectively, to make such critical assessments on its own?
Well, it was trained on decades of wildfire data. Think of it as an incredibly intensive, super-fast education. The AI absorbed countless examples of past wildfires, how they started, how they spread, the precise environmental conditions preceding them. It analyzed millions, probably billions of data points. Humidity levels, wind shear, fuel moisture content, even human ignition patterns. Learning the complex interplay of factors that lead to ignition. This vast data set allowed it to develop its highly refined predictive power by recognizing complex patterns. Patterns that are simply too subtle, too numerous, or too interconnected for human analysts to process manually. It learned the unique fingerprint of ignition risk down to a really granular level. And the core advantage this provides, its true revolutionary aspect. It is capable of spotting danger before it's visible to the human eye. That's the revolutionary part, marking a fundamental shift towards true pre-ignition prevention. It's not about waiting for a puff of smoke to initiate a response. It's about identifying the precise conditions that will lead to that puff of smoke and alerting us before it even has a chance to form. This autonomous capability, its ability to identify and analyze these complex patterns and make these critical predictions, it presents incredible benefits. But as we'll get into, this level of independent, pervasive foresight also comes with some weighty implications.
Okay, let's hone in on that critical moment in July 2025, that specific flashpoint that demonstrated Sentinel AI's unprecedented power. On July 9th, the source says, Sentinel AI detected something strange. What specifically did it see, or rather infer, that spurred such an urgent response for a fire that didn't even exist yet?
Right, this is where the AI's predictive power truly shines. It shows its ability to connect seemingly disparate data points into a cohesive threat assessment. It wasn't just a single factor that triggered the alarm, no. Sentinel AI identified a precise, dangerous combination of environmental elements that, when aggregated and analyzed through its models, spelled imminent disaster at a specific spot. This included unusual soil dryness levels far below what would be typical for that time of year there, indicating a severe lack of moisture, not just in the air, but deep in the ground itself. This meant any spark would find highly receptive fuel immediately.
So the ground itself was already a tinderbox, even if the vegetation above didn't look obviously parched to someone just looking at it, like a hidden fuse.
Exactly. A hidden fuse is a good way to think about it. Alongside that, it detected very specific wind direction patterns. Not just general wind, but highly localized air currents that, based on historical fire data and detailed topographical modeling, would funnel any tiny ignition into a rapidly spreading fire, pushing it through particularly vulnerable areas, steep terrain, making it incredibly difficult to contain once it actually started. And critically, it identified a specific elevated critical vegetation density in that exact location. It wasn't just that there was dry brush, it was the amount of dry brush, its specific distribution, its continuity, forming a highly combustible fuel load perfectly aligned with the predicted wind patterns. When these three factors, soil dryness, wind direction, fuel density, coalesced right there, the AI's algorithm screamed danger, like a mathematical certainty of catastrophe.
And the AI's specific output must have been incredibly precise, right? Not just a vague watch out message.
Oh, absolutely. It didn't just give a vague warning about a general region. No way. It flagged the exact coordinates of this location with a clear and unambiguous red zone 89% ignition risk.
Mm.
That concrete, highly specific data point really gives you a tangible sense of the AI's precision. It's not a suggestion. It's a high probability warning with precise geographical coordinates down to the meter, pinpointing exactly where the threat was greatest. That level of actionable intelligence is, well, revolutionary for emergency services.
That's an incredible level of foresight. And the urgency of this prediction wasn't lost on the ground crews, I imagine, because this wasn't some general forecast for the distant future, like a seasonal outlook.
No, not at all. The source specifies that the AI's models indicated that ignition could occur within hours. This wasn't a warning for tomorrow or next week. It was for an immediate, rapidly unfolding crisis. This incredibly tight prediction window meant there was absolutely no time to lose for the ground teams. It pushed the entire emergency response system into overdrive, demanding an immediate preemptive strike, a race against an unseen clock.
So the type of warning dispatched must have been very specific, too, for a threat that literally didn't exist yet to human perception.
It was a direct pre-ignition alert sent to ground crews. This is a critical distinction from a traditional fire alert, which typically comes after a fire has already started, often with visible smoke or flames. This alert was signaling a threat that had not yet manifested in any visible, human-detectable form. It was truly a call to action based solely on data and predictive analytics. It's like Sentinel AI had a sixth sense for an unfolding ecological catastrophe, perceiving it before any human eye or nose could, before any sensor on the ground would have registered it.
To get an alert for a fire that hasn't happened but is predicted with such high certainty to happen within hours, that truly is a game changer. Perceiving an environmental threat not just before it's visible, but before it even fully exists. So the alert is out, a pre-ignition alert from a NASA AI. What happened next on the ground? The source details a truly swift chain of action, a coordinated response that was almost immediate, a real test of human-AI synergy.
The speed and coordination were indeed impressive. It demonstrates the kind of rapid operational shift needed for this new era of preemptive action. The warning was immediately relayed to Wildfire, California's state firefighting agency, known for its rapid deployment capabilities. Simultaneously, it went to local forestry teams who have that intimate knowledge of the rugged terrain there. They understand access points, local conditions, way better than a remote satellite ever could. And critically, specialized drones equipped with high-resolution thermal cameras were launched, providing real-time, on-the-ground validation and pinpointing any immediate hotspots invisible from human vantage points. This multifaceted response ensured that every available resource was quickly mobilized and deployed, converging rapidly on the exact coordinates provided by Sentinel AI, approaching the predicted site from multiple angles, ground and air.
And the ground teams facing this unseen threat really didn't waste any time.
No, they didn't. Despite the challenging mountainous terrain, crews arrived at the predicted site within an hour of receiving the alert. Think about that. Potential disaster predicted from orbit, alert sent, human teams on the ground at the exact spot, all within 60 minutes.
Incredible.
It's an astonishing response time, especially in rugged, often roadless terrain. And crucially, upon arrival, they found the undeniable, tangible ground validation for the AI's prediction. The precise location flagged by Sentinel AI was confirmed to be a dry canyon scattered with illegal campfire remnants.
So there was a very tangible human cause for the ignition risk, a literal tinder and spark just waiting to happen, even if the fire hadn't started yet. This wasn't just a random set of climate conditions. It was a primed environment with a clear ignition source sitting there like a time bomb.
Precisely. The remnants of those campfires provided the specific real-world spark point that the AI's algorithms had flagged as having an 89% chance of igniting within hours. It was a perfect storm of environmental conditions meeting a negligent human element. This provided undeniable, on-the-ground proof of the AI's accuracy and the legitimacy of its warning. It wasn't just some statistical anomaly. It was the disaster waiting to happen, caught just in time.
So the crews were there, the risk was confirmed. What specific preventative measures did they take to neutralize this unseen threat?
Right, their mission was neutralization, meticulous and decisive. They diligently removed fuel sources, clearing away any dry brush, fallen leaves, combustible materials like deadfall that could easily ignite. They cleared brush to create robust fire breaks, depriving any potential fire of contiguous fuel paths, isolating the risk area, and they methodically neutralized the risk from those campfire remnants, making absolutely sure any smoldering embers were thoroughly extinguished, making sure they posed no further threat. All these preventative actions were completed before a single flame could take hold. This is the profound yet quiet triumph, the one that will likely never be fully appreciated by the broader public. That day, the wildfire that could have destroyed thousands of acres, devastating homes, fragile ecosystems, countless lives, simply never happened.
It's an amazing testament to the power of combining cutting-edge AI technology with the rapid, dedicated efforts of human teams on the ground. A true synergy between artificial intelligence providing that unparalleled foresight and human bravery taking decisive action. But it also highlights an inherent irony, doesn't it? A successful prevention is often an unsung victory, unknown to those it protects.
It absolutely is. The source notes the local community remained unaware of the near disaster. They went about their lives, enjoying the mountains, completely oblivious to the catastrophe that had been averted literally just hours before it likely would have erupted. This makes the victory a silent one, likely unappreciated by those it protected because they never experienced the threat. There was no, heroism displayed against a visible enemy, just quiet, methodical work based on an invisible warning.
What's truly fascinating here is Well, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other never-happened events are quietly being averted thanks to technologies like this without us even realizing it? We celebrate the heroes who fight fires, who respond to visible crises. But what about the silent heroes, both human and machine, who stop them before they even start? It's a paradox of success, where the greatest victory is that nothing spectacular occurred. This brings us to a crucial pivot in our discussion now, moving from the marvel of the technology's triumphs to its critical ethical dimension. The source makes it very clear that while this is a monumental achievement, but some see danger in this power, implying that such advanced surveillance and predictive capabilities are, in fact, a double-edged sword, one that cuts both ways.
And this is where that challenging and frankly thought-provoking term introduced in the source really comes into play: predictive environmental policing. This concept immediately raises a multitude of questions about oversight, control, and the very nature of intervention. Intervening in a world where machines can foresee future environmental events. If an AI can predict and prevent environmental disasters with such accuracy, we have to ask, who defines what constitutes a threat worthy of intervention? And what are the criteria for that definition?
This raises such an important question. Who decides what's a threat? This isn't a simple objective definition when you introduce powerful AI systems that operate with such autonomy, is it? Could there be human biases inadvertently baked into the AI's criteria during its training, reflecting historical priorities, maybe, or economic interests? Could an algorithm inadvertently prioritize certain ecological values over others, or even, down the line, over existing land use agreements or human activity? For example, the source implicitly raises the question, if the AI identifies specific human agricultural practices as contributing to an environmental risk, say runoff leading to an algal bloom, could the system then recommend or even enforce changes in farming methods based on predicted impact, potentially overriding existing agreements or property rights?
Exactly. Or imagine an algorithm predicting a rise in illegal logging based on, say, atmospheric carbon shifts or unusual vehicle movements its sensors detect. Could it then automatically flag specific forested areas for immediate drone surveillance, or even dispatch ground teams based purely on a predictive model? These are the kinds of granular, difficult questions that emerge when a machine can not only see the future, but potentially dictate the present, influencing human behavior based on its unseen calculations. And the source doesn't shy away from unpacking these deeper, more unsettling implications. The most direct and immediate concern, which naturally arises, is that fundamental question of scope creep. Could these satellites be used to monitor people instead of nature? That moves the discussion from ecological protection straight into potential human surveillance, and the implications of that shift are profound.
And the source takes that thought even further to a truly provocative, almost dystopian hypothetical, really.
Yes, it asks, if an AI can predict a wildfire, could it also predict and prevent human actions it deems dangerous? This takes the concept from environmental safeguarding right into potential social control, raising significant concerns about individual autonomy, privacy, fundamental freedoms. If an AI can identify conditions that will lead to a fire, what about conditions that could lead to a crime, or civil unrest, or any other human activity deemed dangerous by some authority? The line becomes incredibly thin, almost imperceptible. For instance, if an AI analyzes population density, movement patterns, resource availability, could it predict social unrest in a specific urban area? And then, what action gets triggered? The very idea of preemptively preventing human action based on algorithmic prediction is a complex ethical minefield.
The source also uses some incredibly illustrative imagery to make this concept more tangible, painting a stark picture of pervasive monitoring that resonates deeply with our contemporary anxieties around privacy.
It does. It hints at the idea of shadowy satellite imagery over cities, which immediately evokes this sense of constant pervasive watchfulness, where every movement, every gathering, every interaction could potentially be tracked, cataloged, analyzed. This isn't just about environmental conditions anymore. It's about human activity being under a perpetual, intelligent gaze. And even more chilling is the idea of digital locks over forests and neighborhoods. This isn't about physical locks, obviously, but it implies a mechanism for control, for restricting access or behavior based on AI-driven predictions. Maybe automated alerts sent to authorities if certain individuals are detected in sensitive areas, or access to certain resources digitally curtailed based on predicted misuse. It paints a picture where algorithms, rather than human judgment, begin to define and enforce boundaries of behavior and movement.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, well, the line between protecting our planet from environmental catastrophe and infringing on personal privacy and individual liberty becomes incredibly blurry, incredibly fast. It demands careful, critical consideration. It's that classic tension between security and freedom, isn't it? But now, with a technological layer of foresight we've never had before, where decisions are made by an unseen, maybe unfeeling algorithm.
And this is precisely why we must ask these questions now, at the dawn of this capability, rather than waiting until the technology is so integrated into our lives and governance that it becomes difficult, maybe impossible to pull back or regulate effectively. The power of predictive analytics, especially when applied to human behavior, societal dynamics, it carries immense ethical weight and demands a proactive, public conversation about its boundaries and oversight.
So Sentinel AI's success in preventing that California wildfire is undeniably groundbreaking, a really positive example of what this tech can achieve. But the source suggests that this is just the beginning, hinting at a much larger, almost global vision for AI-driven Earth observation and management.
Absolutely. The potential applications for similar AI satellites and networks across various global challenges are vast, truly revolutionary, as the source indicates. Imagine this level of predictive power applied to other pressing natural disasters that plague communities worldwide. For instance, monitoring floods. Not just reacting to rising water levels once rivers crest, but predicting overflows and dangerous levels days, maybe even weeks in advance. This would allow for truly effective, timely evacuation strategies, proactive deployment of barriers, pre-positioning of supplies, potentially saving countless lives and huge amounts of property damage.
That would fundamentally transform disaster response, wouldn't it? Moving it from reactive chaos to strategic, maybe even calm prevention. And what about other large-scale weather phenomena, like the devastating storms we see every year?
Yes, tracking hurricanes. Forecasting paths and intensity with far greater accuracy than current models can manage, providing more precise warning times, enabling more targeted preparations for coastal communities. The AI could identify subtle atmospheric and oceanic conditions that indicate a hurricane is rapidly strengthening or shifting course, giving unprecedented lead time for critical decisions like mandatory evacuations, which are incredibly costly and disruptive if issued unnecessarily. This could save billions in unnecessary preparedness costs, let alone lives.
The source even takes it a step further into something that feels almost beyond traditional environmental monitoring, hinting at the ability to predict global health crises like pandemics. Is that really feasible?
Well, this is a truly fascinating and perhaps more speculative application, but the source does suggest it. An AI network could potentially identify the nascent stages of a pandemic, maybe by tracking environmental factors like unusual changes in animal populations or specific ecological shifts that often precede zoonotic spillover events where pathogens jump from animals to humans. Or it could track large-scale human population movements linked to disease outbreaks. An AI could identify subtle, interconnected patterns in human, animal, and environmental interactions that might signal the early stages of a novel pathogen spread, providing an early warning system on a global health scale, allowing for containment or maybe vaccine development far in advance of the first widespread human infection. The overarching goal for this technology across all these domains is really to predict disasters before they happen, revolutionizing global disaster preparedness and transforming how we manage risk on a planetary scale.
It truly sounds like the ultimate global safety net, doesn't it? An all-seeing, all-knowing guardian watching over us. But as this network of AI guardians grows, so does its reach. What are the full implications of having every corner of the Earth under such constant, intelligent observation? What does it mean for society, for privacy, for freedom?
The source provides a sweeping statement that really defines a new epoch, I think. We may be entering an era where nothing on Earth escapes the eyes of an AI guardian. Consider the sheer scale and pervasiveness of such a system. A vast network of satellites, continuously processing and analyzing mind-boggling volumes of data. From atmospheric conditions, ocean currents, soil moisture, vegetation health, to human infrastructure changes, agricultural practices, and even, as we discussed, potentially human movement patterns. This isn't just a few data points or periodic scans. It's like a living, breathing digital twin of our planet, constantly updated, analyzed, and interpreted by an intelligent, autonomous system.
So, the societal implications of living in a world under constant intelligent surveillance. Even if the stated intentions are purely benevolent and focused on safety, they're immense. How does that change human behavior? How does it impact our sense of privacy, our freedom to explore, or even just our trust in unseen authorities?
These are precisely the profound questions we must grapple with. Now, even if Sentinel AI is used only for the highest good, its very existence paves the way for a future where every environmental variable and potentially every human interaction with the environment is observed, cataloged, analyzed. The benevolent AI guardian could, in a different context or under different governance, easily become an omniscient AI overseer. It forces us to confront the delicate balance between optimal planetary management and individual freedom, a balance that becomes incredibly precarious and incredibly important when an entity possesses such profound and pervasive predictive power over the future. We must actively shape this future, not simply let it unfold around us.
As we wrap up this deep dive, let's loop back to where we started. The story of the wildfire that never happened is, without a doubt, a resounding victory for technology and for proactive intervention. It's a testament to human ingenuity, the power of collaboration, showing us what's possible when we combine advanced AI with dedicated human effort, and a willingness to embrace new paradigms. We might never truly appreciate how many such silent victories are occurring around us, how many threats are averted before they ever manifest, allowing us to live safer lives, all thanks to an unseen gaze.
Yet, as you've pointed out throughout this deep dive, this incredible triumph also stands as a profound warning, forcing us to grapple with the deeper implications of the powerful technologies we are so rapidly developing. The future of disaster prevention, the source poignantly reflects, will not just be about courage or technology, but trust.
And it really hammers home two essential yet distinct facets of this trust that we as a society will need to navigate in the coming decades. First, there's trust in the machines that watch over us, our faith in their accuracy, their impartiality, the programming and ethical frameworks that guide their predictions and decisions. Can we truly rely on an algorithm to make these kinds of determinations without constant human oversight?
And perhaps even more critically, there's trust in ourselves to decide where their gaze should end. This speaks to the human responsibility, our responsibility, to set clear ethical boundaries, to define the limits of surveillance and intervention, and to ensure robust, transparent oversight of these increasingly autonomous systems. It's about our collective wisdom and foresight in managing these powerful tools, not just our capacity to build them. This isn't a passive process. It requires constant vigilance and active ethical development.
So, for you, our listener, here's a final provocative thought to ponder as we close out. If AI systems can foresee and prevent dangers that are entirely imperceptible to our human senses, allowing us to avoid disasters we wouldn't even know to fear, how much of our safety and security should we willingly hand over to these autonomous, all-seeing systems? And maybe even more critically, what inherent and profound responsibilities does this unprecedented foresight place on us as humans? Responsibilities to carefully define and manage the ethical limits and continuous oversight for these powerful AI guardians that are literally beginning to see and to shape our future. It's a question that will undoubtedly define our relationship with technology and with each other for generations.